Stateside now, a former federal prosecutor is now alleging that he has evidence President Biden used his influence to protect a Ukrainian energy company, Burisma Holdings, who Hunter Biden once worked for. Our national correspondent Logan Raddick is tracking this story. He joins us now live on Capitol Hill with details. Logan, good morning.
Emma, good morning. And Bud Cummins is a former federal prosecutor in Arkansas, and he says he gave the Justice Department a tip back in 2018, but the DOJ did not pursue that tip, according to Cummins, who offered to provide evidence to them, but they secretly gathered his phone records instead. Now, Cummins provided Newsmax with emails, including one he wrote to then New York U.S. Attorney Jeffrey Berman on October 4th of 2018, telling him that Ukraine's Prosecutor General Yuri Lutsenko was willing to travel to the U.S. to provide evidence about the Bidens and Burisma Holdings, that Ukrainian company that Hunter Biden was on the board of. Now, Cummins is the second person to publicly come forward with allegations that the current president engaged in illegal behavior while vice president. Cummins says Lutsenko believes Joe Biden and former Secretary of State John Kerry exercised influence to protect Burisma in exchange for payments to Hunter Biden and his business associates, including Devon Archer. Now, Cummins told Berman that Lutsenko could produce two witnesses who could corroborate the claims. He says he's surprised that the DOJ did not pursue his tip, especially considering that then Vice President Joe Biden was in charge of U.S.-Ukraine policy when Hunter was hired to be on the board of Burisma. Cummins' emails to Berman also noted that Devon Archer, again, the business partner of Hunter Biden, had been convicted and could be pushed by prosecutors about whether allegations of Joe Biden's involvement were true. But Cummins never heard back. And Cummins was also stunned by the email that he got here from Apple, which was a notice that federal prosecutors obtained data in 2019 from his iPhone with a grand jury subpoena. Cummins says it felt like retaliation for bringing an allegation against Joe Biden, and that as an attorney, his phone was full of attorney-client privileged information. Again, President Biden and his family deny any wrongdoing, but Cummins says he wishes that the DOJ took up his tip because he says there's proof there that hasn't been tapped into. Back to you.
All right, Logan Raddick there at the Capitol with the latest on that. Logan, thank you. House Oversight Committee Chairman James Comer is urging the Justice Department to hold off on charging Hunter Biden until Republicans hold their press conference tomorrow.
Comer claims he now has more information regarding the Biden family's business deals, which would suggest the Bureau passed on investigating the president's family for their involvement in an alleged pay-to-play scheme. Joining us now for reaction ahead of tomorrow's press conference is Scott Perry, Pennsylvania Republican congressman, member of the House Oversight Committee. Sir, welcome, and thanks so much for coming on. As we heard from Chairman Comer, he wants the DOJ to hold off on bringing forward potential charges, which, again, this investigation has been going on for years. So there was a question about what might be the rush in the final days leading up to potential charges. But he gave the FBI the same deadline, essentially, to respond to this request for documents outlining some allegations of involvement, a potential influence peddling scheme. Talk to me, sir, about what you're expecting for tomorrow. Has the federal government responded to these requests?
Well, so far they haven't responded to me. Thank you very much for allowing me to be on your program. I'm sure that, well, I can't be sure, but I suspect they haven't responded to Chairman Comer either. Let's talk about some facts that we know. Members of the Oversight Committee sat in the Treasury and read through binders upon binders of suspicious activity reports collected by Treasury from the banks, which showed the Biden family, untold number at this point, we're not really sure how many, but an increasing number of the Biden family receiving money from entities tied to the Communist Party of China or from foreign entities hostile to the United States of America. We don't know what that money was for. We've not seen any business dealings, so to speak. But we do know that they moved it through a series of LLCs and different organizations. And so there's a lot of smoke there. We don't know exactly how much fire, but one of the things that has precipitated then is the information from the banks. Understand what we got is from Treasury so far, but that led us to ask the banks. And look, politicians and politicians' families might stretch the truth or outright lie, but bankers do not. They know that federal regulators want to know where the money's coming from and where it's going to. And this has given us the reason and the probable cause to look at the bank records of the Biden family to determine where these payments are coming from, what level they are at, millions of dollars at this point, and where they are going to. And of course, we know from Hunter's own admission on his laptop that he failed to pay federal taxes on hundreds of thousands, if not more, in income from some of these transactions. That notwithstanding, I sent a letter just last week or the week before, I think, asking folks to investigate some of these claims regarding Hunter Biden, because our concern is, based on open source reporting, that the DOJ is just going to give him a slap on the wrist based on small crimes that occurred later, when big crimes apparently have occurred earlier on and were admitted to on his laptop, which he now admits that he owned. So we don't want them to just kind of sweep this under the rug. And of course, the other concern is not only the Biden family, but it is the Department of Justice itself. Did they stretch the statute of limitations? Did the IRS construct tolling agreements to make sure Hunter Biden and his family got off easy? We need to know all these things. The American people need to know if the law is being applied equally, or if there's favoritism.
Congressman, I got to jump in.
Like
We're limited on time. 30 seconds for you on this. But why Wednesday? Yeah. If you have evidence that really could be pertinent to this case, to ask those that the DOJ essentially to hold off on charging, why not present that on Monday or today? Why Wednesday?
Yeah. Because we're still compiling, and it takes a certain amount of time. Look, we are working as fast as we can. Understand, the banks, the Treasury, all these agencies and individual entities, they're not necessarily cooperating willingly. They might have to be subpoenaed. They might have to be forced or compelled to provide the information. Then you have to put it together. The Republicans are not the Democrats. We don't charge people, and we don't make accusations without evidence that we can bring up and show. So I'm sure Mr. Comer, Chairman Comer, is proceeding with all due diligence to make sure that everything is absolutely factual and irrefutable.
All right. And again, that press briefing scheduled for 9 a.m. tomorrow. So we'll have our viewers covered right here on National Report. Pennsylvania Congressman Scott Perry, thanks for joining us today. Appreciate it.
Well, thank you.